Theme of the lecture: Food and water supply in emergency. What is an emergency in public health? A public health emergency is a situation that poses an immediate or significant risk to the health of a population, requiring urgent action and special measures beyond routine healthcare services. Examples of emergency in the public health are next. Can be natural disaster like earthquake, floods, hurricanes that destroy infrastructure, contaminate water, and disrupt food supply. Another examples of emergency in public health are disease outbreaks like epidemics and pandemics, cholera, Ebola, COVID-19, measles. Armed conflict or displacements also is example of public health emergency. Refugees and internally displaced persons facing poor sanitation, malnutrition, and lack of medical care. Technological or chemical accidents also is emergency situation in public health, which can cause industrial explosions, toxic spills, radiation leaks. Key characteristics of public health emergency are next. Disruption of basic needs, safe water, food, shelter, and health care may be unavailable. High risk of disease spread due to poor sanitation, overcrowding, or lack of vaccines. Malnutrition and hunger, especially in children and vulnerable groups. Psychological stress, mental health problems rise after displacement, violence, or disaster. Need for coordinated response. Governments, international organizations like World Health Organization, UNICEF, Red Cross, and NGOs must work together. Natural disaster can happen anywhere and anytime, be it from flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, national emergencies, or man-made disaster. Our city water system or private well can be compromised. Flooding often faults municipal water system. Power leak means the disinfection processes at water treatment plants doesn't happen. On top of having a bad odor and taste, contaminated water carrying viruses and bacteria can cause diseases such as dysentery, typhoid, hepatitis, and more. All water of an uncertain sources or quality should be treated before being used for drinking, food preparation, or hygiene. What about our first questions? Water supply in emergencies. During and after natural disaster and emergencies, a person can only go a few days without clean, safe water. It is always wise to have an alternative sources of safe drinking water, either stored water or an emergency water purification system. One of the first priorities after a disaster is to provide safe drinking water. This, along with shelter, medication, and food, are crucial to prevent the spread of waterborne diseases. Diarrheal diseases is the major risk factor in emergency setting because it can cause sickness and death among children and adult people too. Most diarrheal diseases, including viral gastroenteritis, cholera, shigellosis, typhoid, polio, and some forms of hepatitis, being spread by fecal-oral means, are often called fecal-oral diseases. Fecal-oral diseases transmissions occur when fakes which contain disease-causing pathogens from one person enters from the mouth and is ingested by another person. Fecal oral diseases can easily spread in overcrowded, unsanitary conditions, which are typical of camps and settlements in emergencies. Factors related to fecal oral disease spread include drinking water contaminated with fecal materials, which can occur at the sources during transport or in the household, and poor hygiene due to a lack of water or hygienic practices, and poor food hygiene, for example, contamination of food by dirty or unwashed hands or flies. Here you can see a list of illnesses related to water, sanitation and hygiene, which include following: waterborne disease, which occur when a disease-causing agents enter the body through drinking water. Water-washed disease occur because of inadequate hygiene conditions and practices. Water-based disease include those illnesses that are spread through disease vectors that lives in water. Foodborne illnesses result when disease-causing agents enter the body through food. Vector-borne diseases are spread by means of insects or rodent vectors. In an emergency situation where regular water services has been interrupted, like a hurricane, flood, or water pipe breakage, it is not only important to have a water supply, but also to have ways of treating water if needed. Even if the water looks clear, it could have organisms in it that could make you sick. It's not only humans that shed organisms that make you sick, but some animals have organisms in their gut that can make people sick, said Jonathan Yoder, MPH, Deputy Chief of Center for Disease Control's Vector-Borne Disease Prevention Branch. Local authorities may recommend it using only bottled water, boiled water or disinfected water until regular water service is restored. Contaminated drinking water is one of the number of pathways through which humans can ingest pathogens from fecal matter. Chemical remnants are another main concept. Water purification methods depends on what you are trying to treat, for example, bacterial or chemical contamination, odor, color, or pest. Here are 5 practical ways to make water safe for drinking, especially in emergencies. First, boiling. Bring water to a rolling boil for at least 1 minute, 3 minutes at high altitudes. Kill most bacteria, viruses and parasites. 2. Chlorination, using household bleach or water purification tablets. Add a small amount of chlorine or bleach, unscented 2 to 4 drops per liter, or use purification tablets. Effective against bacteria and viruses, less so for some parasites. 3. Filtration. Use potable water filters or ceramic or sand filters. Removes dirt, protozoal and some bacteria, but viruses may still pass through them unless combined with chemical treatments. 4. Solar disinfection or SODIS method. Fill clear plastic bottles with water and expose them to direct sunlight for at least 6 hours. UV rays kill many microorganisms, simple and low-cost methods. And 5th, distillation. Heat water to create steam, then collect and condense it. Removes microbes, salt, and heavy metals. Very effective but needs equipment and energy. In emergencies, boiling and chlorination are usually the quickest and the most reliable methods. Here you can see recommendation of USA Departments of Health and Human Services from for Disease Control and Prevention. How make water safe during an emergency. After a disaster or emergency, tap water may not be safe to use. Always listen to your local authorities for special advice. Use bottled water for drinking, cooking, and brushing teeth if possible. If bottled water is not available, choose one of the following methods to make your water safe. Water contaminated with harmful chemicals or toxins cannot be made safe by boiling, disinfection, or filtration. You should remember this. Boil. This method will kill bacteria, viruses, and parasites. Boiling water is the best method. Boil your water for 1 minute. If at elevation about 6,500 feet, boil for 3 minutes. Let the water cool. Disinfect. This method will kill most viruses and bacteria. Add 8 drops or a little less than 1/8 of a teaspoon of 5.9% unscented household bleach to 1 gallon water. For clouded tap water, use 16 drops or 1/4 teaspoon. If you don't have household bleach, chlorine dioxide tablets or iodine can be used according to label instruction. And here you can see how you should first of all add bleach to water, mix well, wait at least 30 minutes before using. And that method, filter. This method can remove parasites. Most potable water filters do not remove bacteria or viruses. Choose a water filter labels to remove parasites and follow manufacturer's instructions. Filtered water might need additional treatment to be safe. Please remember, filtration don't kill bacteria, only boiling or disinfection by different chemical substance. Emergency disinfection of drinking water. In an emergency situation where regular water service has been interrupted, like a hurricane, flood, or water pipe breakage, local authorities may recommend using only bottled water, boiled water, or disinfected water until regular water services is restored. The instructions below show you how to boil and disinfect water to kill most disease-causing microorganisms that may be present in the water. However, boiling or disinfection will not destroy other contaminants such as heavy metals, salts, and most other chemicals. Please remember about this. Boiling. One of the easiest and most well-known ways to make sure water is safe to drink is by boiling it. The high temperature kills bacteria and viruses. However, it does not remove any sediment, dirt, or particles. Boiling or disinfections will not destroy other contaminants such as heavy metals, salt, and most other chemicals. If the water is cloudy, let it settle and filter it through a clean clothes, paper towel, or coffee filters. How to treat water by boiling. Bring water to a rolling boil for at least 1 minute. At altitude above 5,000 feet or 1,000 meters, boil water for 3 minutes. Let water cool naturally and store it in a clean container with covers. Add 1 pinch of salt to each quart or liter of water and pour the water from one clean container to another several times. If boiling is not possible, chemical disinfection of filtered and settled water collected from a well, spring, river, or other surface water body will still provide some health benefits and is better than no treat at all. Disinfect water using household bleach if you can't boil water. Only use regular, unscented chlorine bleach products that are suitable for disinfection and sanitization as indicated on the label. You can use a non-scented household chlorine bleach that contain a chlorine compound to disinfect water. Never do not use non-chlorine bleach to disinfect water. Typically, household chlorine bleach will be 5.25% available chlorine. Follow the procedure written on the label. When the necessary procedure is not given, find the percentage of available chlorine on the label and use the information in the following table as a guide. Available chlorine 1% drops per liter of clear water should be 10 drops per liter. If available chlorine is from 4 to 6%, you should add 2 drops per liter. If available chlorine from 7 to 10%, you should add 1 drop per liter. Mix the treated water intensively and allow it to stand, preferably covered, for 30 minutes. The water should be a slight chlorine odor. If not, repeat the dosage and allow the water to stand for an additional 15 minutes. If the treated water has too strong a chlorine test, allow the water to stand exposed to the air for a few hours or pour it from one clean container to another several times. You can use granular calcium hyposulfate to disinfect water. Add and dissolve 1 heaping teaspoon of high-test granular calcium hypochlorides, approximately 1.4 ounces, for each 2 gallons of water or 5 milliliters, approximately 7 grams per 7.5 liters of water. The mixture will precede a stock chlorine solution of approximately 500 milligrams per liter, since the calcium hypochlorite has available chlorine equal to 70% of its weight. To disinfect water, add the chlorine solution in the ratio of 1 part of chlorine solution to each 100 parts of water to be treated. This is roughly equal to adding half liter to 50 liters of water. To remove any objectionably chlorine odor, aerate the disinfected water by pouring it back and forth from the one clean container to another. You can use chlorine tablets to disinfect filtrated and settled water. Chlorine tablets containing the necessary dosage for drinking water disinfection can be purchased in commercial prepared forms. These tablets are available from drugs and sporting goods stores and should be used as stated in the instructions. When instructions are not available, use 1 tablet for each quart or liter of water to be purified. Another method, we can use tincture of iodine to disinfect filtrated and settled water. Common household iodine from the medicine chest or first aid kit may be used to disinfect water. Add 5 drops of 2% tincture of iodine to each quart or liter of clear water. For cloudy water, add 10 drops and let the solution stand for at least 30 minutes. Only use water that has been properly disinfected for drinking, cooking, making any prepared drinks or for brushing teeth. Here main rules during public health emergency. Look for another sources of water in and around your home. Also, bottled water is your best choice. You may be able to find other sources of water by melting ice cubes or draining your hot water tank or pipes. You can also use river or lake water. It is generally better to use flowing water than still stagnant water. However, do not use water with floating materials in it or water that has a dark color or questionable odor. Regardless of the sources, treat the water by following the instruction on the previous slides. If you have a well on your property that has been flooded, make sure to disinfect and test the well water after the flood. Contact your state or local health department for advice or go to water. Consider how the water looks and how to filter it if needed. Disinfection does not work as well when water is cloudy or colored. If water is cloudy, let it settle. Then filter the water through a clean cloth, paper towel, or coffee filters. Store the settled and filtrated water in clean containers with covers. We're talking about filtration. Purifying water can be accomplished by passing water through a bed of sand and gravel. As water filters through the sand, the remaining particles of suspended matter are trapped in the sand bed. However, there are many household filters that are great to keep on hand. Now here I can see some simple filters. Types of filtration. Closed or simple filtration. Water is poured through a clean cloth to remove large particles. Ceramic filters. Porous ceramic material traps bacteria and protozoa. Sand filter. Biosand or slow sand filters layers of sand and gravel remove suspended solids and microorganisms. Activated carbon filters absorb chemicals, pesticides and bad taste or odor. Portable filters, hand pump or straw filters used in the fields of emergency, effective against bacteria and protozoa. Polyglue. This powder is a coagulant made from fermented soybeans that makes water cleaner. It sticks to dirt and pollutants, causing the dirt in the water to separate from the water and sink. 1 gram can treat up to 5 liters of polluted water. However, the water is still not fully purified and still requires further filtering to be safe to drink. When long-term water storage is concerned, not every container is suitable for storing water. You should aim for high-quality, large food-grade drinking water barrels to store your water. A food-grade barrel or container is one that was specifically designed to hold food or water. Such vessels are durable, leak-proof, and easy to seal or cover. They are also made following the strict standards required to keep food safe. The most commonly used materials for storing water are plastic, metal, and glass. However, while glass is impermeable to vapor and gases and is a fairly effective material for storing water, we do not recommend it using glass vessels to store water, especially when you are storing it for long-term use, say up to a month. Glass is quite fragile and can be easily damaged or broken during an emergency. Next questions of our lecture: food in emergency. Emergency, whether natural disaster, armed conflict, disease outbreaks, or forced displacements, disrupt access to essential needs such as food, clean water, shelter, and health care. In such situations, population face an increased risk of malnutrition, micronutrient deficiencies, and food insecurity, particularly among vulnerable groups like children, pregnant and lactating women, and the elderly peoples. Good nutrition is a cornerstone survival and recovery in emergencies. Without timely intervention, undernutrition can quickly increase illness and death rate, weaken immunity, and slow community recovery. Public health professionals must therefore understand how to access nutritional needs, organize food distributions, prevent disease outbreaks related to poor diets, and ensure the protection of vulnerable groups. Objectives of nutrition in emergencies: prevent malnutrition and related health complications, reduce mortality, especially in vulnerable groups, protect and support optimal infant and young children feeding practices, restore food security, and promote long-term recovery. Common nutritional challenges in emergencies: food storages and disrupted supply chain, contaminated water sources leading to disease outbreaks, increased risk of malnutrition due to stress and displacement, limited health care access for managing malnutrition. Key components of nutrition in emergencies: first, assessment and monitoring. Rapid nutritional assessment to evaluate the severity of malnutrition and food insecurity. Monitoring rates of acute malnutrition, especially in children under 5. Identifying vulnerable groups: pregnant women, elderly, disabled. Second, food assistance and security. Provisions of emergency food rations, ready-to-eat meals, fortified, blended foods, and so on. Ensuring food availability and accessibility, promoting culturally appropriate food. Third, management of malnutrition. Severe acute malnutrition treated with the ready-to-use therapeutic foods like plum nuts. Moderate acute malnutrition managed with supplementary feeding program. And micronutrient deficiencies, supplementation with vitamin and minerals, for example, vitamin A or iron. 4. Infants and young children feedings. Promoting breastfeeding, encouraging exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months. Safe formula use. When breastfeeding is not possible, ensuring safe preparation and storage of formula. Complementary feeding, supporting appropriate foods for children aged from 6 to 23 months. 5. Water sanitation and hygiene. Clean water, access to prevent waterborne disease. Hygiene education and provisions of sanitation facilities and proper food handling and storage practices. 6. Coordination and logistics. Collaboration with humanitarian agents. Coordinated supply chains for good distributions and engaging local communities and authorities. Nutrition in emergencies focuses on preventing and treating malnutrition in population affected by crisis, which can lead to increased illness, death, and long-term health issues. Key strategies include supporting infant and young children feeding, providing essential food and supplements to address protein, energy, and micronutrient deficiencies, and implementing programs like community management of acute malnutrition. Effective emergency nutrition requires data-driven, coordinated responses focusing on vulnerable groups like young children, pregnant and lactating women, and older adults, while also adhering to established international standards and protocols. Why it is important? It helps prevent malnutrition and saves life, reduce long-term development impacts, especially in children, and support faster community recovery and resilience post-disaster. What are the main nutritional needs of the population during emergency situation? During emergency, the population requires adequate energy, protein, fats, and micronutrients to maintain health and survival. The sphere standards recommended a minimum of 2,100 kilocalories per person per day, with 10-12% of calories from protein and 17% from fats. In addition, safe water, at least 15 liters per person per day, is essential. Micronutrients like vitamin A, iron, iodine, and zinc must be included to prevent deficiencies. Needs may be higher for children, pregnant and lactating women, and people with chronic disease. On the slide you can see 6 major nutrients you need: carbohydrates, fast minerals, proteins, vitamins, and water. The primary function of nutrition for humans is to provide the body with essential nutrients for survival, growth, and overall health. These nutrients are categorized into macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients. First of all, here's carbohydrates, the body's main sources of energy. They fuel the brain and muscles. To macronutrients belong protein too, essential for building and repairing tissues, muscles, and organs. They also play a role in hormone regulation. To groups of macronutrients also belong fats, provide a concentrated sources of energy, insulate the body, and help in the absorption of certain vitamins. Group of micronutrients have vitamins, support a variety of functions, including a strong immune system, blood clotting, and the absorption of other nutrients, and minerals, inorganic substances that the body needs for processes like bone formation, nerve function, and maintaining proper blood pressure. In addition to this, water is a crucial component essential for carrying nutrients to cells, regulating body temperature, and aiding in digestion. Good nutrition is crucial for strengthening the immune system and fighting infection, promoting healthy growth and development in children, reducing the risk of chronic disease such as diabetes, heart disease, and stroke, supporting mental health and cognitive function, maintaining a healthy weight and overall well-being. On this slide you can see information about importance of good nutrition, which is same to previous material. Nutritional in emergencies refers to the strategies and interventions aimed at preventing and treating malnutrition during crises such as natural disaster, armed conflicts, pandemics, or populations displacement. During emergencies, food system may collapse. Access to safe water and health care may be disrupted. A vulnerable population, especially children, pregnant and lactating women, the elderly, and people with chronic illnesses, face increased risk of undernutrition. What are the challenges of feeding vulnerable groups during emergency? Children which belong to group need high nutritional needs, vulnerability to infection, risk of breastfeeding interruptions. Elderly, chewing and digestion problem, chronic illnesses requiring special diets. Pregnant and lactating women increase energy and micronutrient requirements like iron, folic acid, and calcium. Disabled and chronically ill peoples may be excluded from distribution points. Cultural and logistic barriers may also limit access to appropriate food. Emergency nutrition is a specialization to strengthening the training and research capacity of developing countries to meet nutritional needs during natural and man-made disaster. Efforts are being made to prevent famines, especially those arising from natural disaster. To prepare for most disaster, start beekeeping at minimum a 3-day supply of emergency food that doesn't require refrigeration, cooking, or a lot of water to prepare. Most emergency managers recommended storage 7 days of food. Now on the slide you can see food which belong to this group, which you can storage long time without refrigerations and which you can easy cooking and easy eat. High acidic foods such as mustard, ketchup, relishes, pickles, non-creamy salad dressings, jams and jellies. However, they may spoil sooner. Foods that don't actually require refrigerations, this food may be used unless they turn moldy or have an unusual odor. Whole fruits and vegetables, fresh. Fruits and vegetable juices, unopened. Dried fruits and coconuts. Bucket groups such as fruit pies, bread, rolls, muffins, and cakes, except those with cream cheese, frosting, or cream fillings. Hard and processed cheeses, butter and margarine, fresh herbs and spices, flour and nuts. Follow these useful tips to minimize your risk and prevent disease. Safe food keeps your loved ones safe. 5 keys to safe food in emergencies. Separate raw and cooked foods. Be sure to cook food fully. Do not leave cooked food at room temperature for more than 2 hours. Keep your hands clean before and while handling food. Use safe water or treat it so that it is not harmful. And avoid eating food with signs of spoilage if possible. When disaster came, regular community practices are disrupted, population often become displaced, and normal production of food and care for children is disturbed. In addition, malnutrition and hunger are widespread among refugees and displaced population. Even in healthy populations, child sickness and death can increase by 20% within 2 weeks. In emergencies, rate of death can soar from 2 to 70 times higher than average among this group when their nutritional needs are not met. These are usually identified as infant and young children, pregnant and lactating women, and older population. Displaced population face several risks of malnutrition. Acute malnutrition or wastings due to sudden lack of food and infections. Micronutrient deficiency, limited dietary diversity lead to anemia, vitamin A deficiency, and weakened immunity. Inappropriate infant feeding. Lack of breastfeeding support increases infant mortality. Overcrowding and poor sanitation increase disease transmissions, worsening undernutrition. And dependence on food aid may limit access to culture, appropriate and diverse food. Here you can see main risk of poor nutrition. This can be nutrients deficiency, increased risk of chronic disease, mental health issues, weakened immune system, poor growth and development, reduced energy levels, and fatigue. What role do micronutrients, some vitamins and minerals, play in emergency nutrition? Micronutrients are essential to prevent illness and support recovery. For example, vitamin A helps to prevent blindness, strengthens immunity. Iron prevents anemia, reduces maternal mortality. Iodine crucial for brain development and thyroid function. Zinc reduces severity of diarrhea and infections. Vitamin C prevents scurvy and support wound healing. Deficiencies spread quickly in emergency, so supplementation and food fortifications are life-saving measures. How can food disruption to be organized to prevent foodborne disease in temporary camps? To prevent foodborne diseases, food disruption must follow strict hygiene and safety standards. Distribute foods in sealed, uncontaminated packaging. Ensure safe water for cooking and drinking. Provide proper sanitation and waste management near distribution sites. Avoid large-scale cooked food distribution unless hygiene can be guaranteed. Train staff and volunteers in safe handling practices. Promote community awareness about hand washing and safe food preparation. What types of food are most suitable for emergency rations and why? Suitable emergency rations should be nutrient dense and balanced, covering entry, protein, fats and micronutrients. Long shelf life, non-perishable, resistance to heat and humidity. easy to transport and store, lightweight, compact packaging, culturally acceptable and easy to prepare, preferable without long cooking times. Examples: fortified blended flour, ready to use therapeutic foods, high energy biscuits, canned fish or beans, or diced salt. Some of this food you can see on the slide. Ready to eat canned meat, fruits and vegetables, canned juices, milk, soup, if powdered, store extra water. Staples sugar, salt, pepper, high energy foods, peanut butter, jelly, crackers, granola bars, train mix, food for infants, elderly person or person on special diets, for example diabetics or those with allergies, comfort, stress food, cookies, hard candy, sweetened cereals, lollipops, instant coffee, tea bags, and vitamins. What are the key environmental factors that can lead to the rapid food spoilage and contamination? Key environmental factors that can lead to rapid food spoilage and contamination in makeshift shelter include high temperature, high humidity, inadequate ventilation, exposure to pests such as rodents and insects, contaminated water, direct sunlight, and unsanitary handling practices. Food storage on the ground, in open container or near waste are especially vulnerable to microbial growth, mold and chemical contamination. Key environmental factors. Temperature. Elevated temperature can spread up the growth of bacteria while some microorganisms thrive in cold conditions. Improper temperature control is a major cause of rapid spoilage. You should remember that any food should be stored in cold, dry place. Moisture, high humidity and the presence of water are essential for the growth and multiplication of bacteria, yeast and mold, which are primarily causes of food deteriorations. Oxygen, air. Oxygen can promote oxidation, leading to rancidity in fats and oils, and enzymatic browning in fruits and vegetables. Light. Light exposure can cause chemical reaction and degradation, affecting the quality and safety of certain foods. Time. The longer food is exposed to favorable conditions for microbial growth or other spoilage processes, the more rapidly it will deteriorate. Microorganisms. Bacteria, yeast and mold are principal agents of spoilage, multiplying rapidly and causing significant changes to food. Insects and pests. Pests like rodents and insects can physically contaminate food with their waste, feed on it, and introduce microorganisms contributing to spoilage. That means people must need control all these key environmental factors to prevent and better prevent contamination of the food by microorganisms, by spoilage, and increase time for food storage during emergency. Interactions and consequences. These factors do not act in isolation. For example, heat, moisture, and air work together to promote the growth of bacteria and enzymatic activity. Rapid food spoilage can result in change to color, texture, odor, and taste, making the food undesirable and potentially unsafe to eat. Environmental factors are also influenced by broader issues such as climate change, which can increase extreme weather, Events can lead to the greater contamination risk from sewage and chemical runoff, further impacting food safety. To develop a rapid low-tech assessment protocols for donated or salvaged food items, consider the following steps. Visual inspections. Check for signs of spoilage such as discoloration, mold, building cans, leaking packaging, or pest damage. Odor assessment. Smell foods for off-odor, sourness, or chemical smell that indicate spoilage or contaminants. Texture and consistency. Observe changes in texture such as slimy, sticky, or unusually soft for perishable foods. 4. Expiration check. Relieve label for expiration dates, prioritizing the use of items closest to expiration while discarding those that are outdated. Segregation. Separate high-risk foods such as meat, dairy, and cooked foods from low-risk items like canned goods and dry foods for priority assessment. Basic temperature check. Use low-tech thermometers or simple touch test to detect if perishable foods have been exposed to unsafe temperatures. Water and hygiene check. Ensure that foods are not stored near contaminated water sources or unsanitary surface. Record keeping. Maintain a simple log of the assessed foods, noting items discarded, quarantined, or safe for distribution. How can authorities ensure the equal distribution of food aid in emergencies? Authorities can ensure fairness by conduct transparent registration of all affected households using clear distribution points and schedules, involving community leaders and women's groups to identify vulnerable households, preventing corruptions and diversions through monitoring and compliance mechanism, adapting distribution to the needs of people with disabilities, elderly, or those unable to acquire, using digital tracking or voucher system where possible. Why is monitoring and evaluation of food distribution important in emergency? Monitoring ensures that aid actually reaches the target pollution, is sufficient, and prevent malnutrition. It helps to track coverage, who receives aid and who is left out, identify gaps and delay in the supply chain, ensure nutritional adequacy of food rations, detect problems such as sharing, selling, or misuse to distribute foods, provide data for improving current and future responses. How can international humanitarian organizations contribute to safe and adequate nutrition in crisis settings? World food programs, food aid, logistic, cash-based transfer. UNICEF treatment of severe acute malnutrition, infant feeding programs, micronutrient supplementation. World Health Organization technical guidance, disease prevention, integration of nutrition with health services, non-governmental organizations, field operations, therapeutic feeding center advocacies. Global nutritional clusters, coordination of nutritional actors to avoid duplication and ensure coverage. They also support capacity building, funding, and technical expertise to strengthen local response system. I separate questions about emergency responded nutritional on duty. The nature of emergency work is high stress and requires mobility and strength. With it being a physical job, maintaining a good diet is important for performance level. But the occupational stress and lifestyle of emergency services worker isn't conducive to well-nourished diet. Police, firefighter, and paramedics work shifts, miss home cooked meals, have sleeping difficulties, and are exposed to tragedy on a daily basis. Overeating can become a coping mechanism, and meals are waived for convenience more than nutritional density. It is well known that our body needs to absorb appropriate amount of minerals from food and drink to maintain the normal functions of cells and organs. If viewed from another angle, food also mitigates physiological stress. Subject to operational needs, meal arrangements is a big problem confronting the industry during local, prolonged or overseen missions where there is poor accessibility and damaged infrastructure. It is worth learning how to select suitable food and drink for emergency responders, whether standing by or discharging life-saving activities. Emergency responder nutrition focuses on ensuring that personnel involved in disaster response and crisis management maintain optimal health, energy, and performance during operations. Emergency responders often face physically and mentally demanding tasks in challenging environments, making proper nutrition essential for sustaining energy, decision making, and resilience. Key nutritional needs for emergency responders. First, caloric requirements. Emergency responders require high caloric intake due to increased physical activity and stress. Calories should come from balanced sources, complex carbohydrates, lean proteins, and healthy fats. 2. Macronutrients. Carbohydrates, primarily energy sources for endurance and sustained activity, for example, whole grains, fruits, vegetables. Proteins, essential for muscle repair and recovery. Here can be lean meats, beans, nuts. Fats, important for long-term energy and nutrient absorption. For example, avocados, nuts, seeds. 3. Hydration. Staying hydrated is crucial, especially in extreme heat or cold. Water should be consumed regularly, with electrolyte replacement drinks if sweating heavily. And 4. Micronutrients. Electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium, prevent cramps and dehydration, and vitamins and minerals support immune function and energy production. For example, vitamin C, B complex, or iron. Meal timing and planning. Frequent small meals. Eating smaller meals every 3 to 4 hours helps maintain energy levels. Portable foods, ready to eat non-perishable items, energy bars, train mix are useful during field operations and pre-missions preparation. Consume a balanced meal rich in complex carbs and protein before deployment. Nutrition during operations. Quick, nutrient-dense snacks for sustained energy. Avoid excessive sugar and caffeine, which can cause energy crashes. Emphasize balanced hydration with water and electrolyte solutions. And recovery nutrition. Post-shift meals should focus on replenishing glycogen storage and muscle recovery. Include a mix of protein and carbohydrates, chicken with quinoa and vegetables. Consideration for different environments. In hot climate, emphasize hydration and electrolyte balance. In cold climate, increase calorie intake with more fats for sustained energy. And extended operations, plan balance, shelf-stable food options for prolonged deployments. Why proper nutrition matters for responder. Enhances physical performance and endurance. Supports mental clarity and decision making. Produce fatigue and risk of injury. Promotes faster recovery between shifts. Proper nutrition planning is crucial for the health, safety, and effectiveness of emergency responder during crisis situation. Emergency responder must respond to emergencies at any time while on duty. Sufficient nutrition intakes can help keep the body and mind in good condition. According to the NFPA 1584 standard on the rehabilitation process for members during emergency operation and training exercise, it is recommended that emergency responders avoid having the following beverage: alcohol within 8 hours prior to duty, carbonates, high fructose contents and high sugar drinks, food with high fat and or high protein contents, excessive fluids, tobacco, creatine supplements, ephedrine, beverage exceeding 400 mg of caffeine per day, and energy drinks. Alcohol is not good fluid during work. It not only affects judgments but also increases urine output and delays rehydratations. Worse still, alcohol can cause headache, hangover, tiredness, and thirst after a period of time. This is the reason for not recommending drinking alcohol within 8 hours prior to duty. On the other hand, caffeine appears harmless, but overconsumption can pose some health risks, including headache, stomach upset, and rises heart rate. Long-term excessive use of caffeine lead to caffeine dependence as well. Daily caffeine intakes of 400 milligrams, about 4 cups of coffee, is recommended. Do not drink too much fluids. It is easy to lose water during the rescue missions because the emergency responders need to wear heavy protective equipment and consume a lot of energy in the disaster scene. In fact, it is also difficult to drink during life-saving activities. For rapid recovery from dehydration, drinking is important, but do remember that consumption of small amount of fluid frequently is better than rapid consumption of a large amount, as it causes nausea and vomiting. Energy drinks or sports drinks. In general, water is usually the best choice for maintaining fluid balance and preventing dehydration. Sports drinks add 4 to 8% carbohydrates and 0.5 to 0.7 gram of sodium per liter of solutions and can provide energy quickly for prolonged operations. But sport drinks are not the same as energy drinks. The latter contain ingredients that can significantly raise heart rate and blood pressure. As a result, they can increase the cardiac risk for emergency responder. In addition, carbonates, high fructose contents, and high sugar drinks may cause stomach upset as well. Creatine supplements. Good physical fitness is essential for conducting siege and rescue operations. Consumption of creatine supplements might increase emergency responders' body strength, but it also increases the risk of dehydration, nausea, and vomiting. Ephedrine. It is commonly used for decongestants and cough syrup signs, and ephedrine can relieve airway obstruction and nasal congestions. However, it also raises heart rates and causes nausea and confusions. Tobacco. Some people smoke for refreshments. It is because dopamine is released in human brains and gives an excitation while smoking. But at the same time, it is also causes nicotine addictions, dependence, and great harm to body. According to the statistics from research institutes, smokers have high chance of lung cancer, heart disease, and cerebrovascular disease. Spiritual satisfactions. Food is not only to satisfy the physical needs, but also to bring spiritual satisfactions. For the overseas missions, the emergency responders are required to leave their home for a week, maybe longer. Instant foods such as energy bars and ready meals are popular choices as they are convenience solution for emergency food supplies with no preparing required, especially when hygiene is not dependable. The emergency responders may feel homesick during the missions. The test of home can provide some physiological support in difficult situations. For example, the ready meals from South Korea and China contain kimchi and rice respectively. What is an adequate meal? Information from the World Health Organization shows the daily energy requirements for a person is a minimum 2,100 kilocalories per day, and special dietary needs should be considered. According to the NFPA 1584, the heavy workload such as forcible entry or excretion operational could burn of 3 to 500 kilocalories per hour. It is a natural requirement for every emergency management authority to provide adequate food and drink for their responder. However, every emergency responder also has a responsibility to take care of their own health. Thank you for your attention.